Okay, I think it's time we started. Thank you very much for joining us here this morning for the IBM Planning Analytics webinar and demo. My name is John Berry and I'm joined by Colin Keneally here from IBM. Colin, I'm going to hand over to you to kind of take us through some slides and the demo. Okay.
Thanks very much, John, and good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me well and I hope you can see my screen. So I'm going to take you through this presentation of IBM Planning Analytics. I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the background to it, and then I'll do a demonstration of the solution. And we'll have time for questions, hopefully, in between the presentation and the demo and at the end. So in terms of the background, bear with me 1 second. Sorry, I'm just going to... Sorry, my mouse stopped working there for a moment, but it seems to be okay now. Okay, so like I say, just to introduce you to the background to IBM Planning Analytics. And I think when we talk to our customers about their planning processes, their performance management processes, a number of things emerge, but I guess 3 sort of key themes emerge regularly, and they are speed, agility, and foresight. And I'll talk about each one of those very briefly. So starting with speed. You know, I think when we speak to people, our customers, they're looking to fix their planning problems quickly. Yeah, and very often what that means is they want to start small, maybe look at one area of the business, one process within the business, but then sort of grow that over time, add more data, add more users. And I think speed also implies ease of use of a system, ease of adoption of any system. Customers are looking to automate key reporting and planning cycles, really in large part by reducing the time and effort that they take to do them. And also by speed, we often mean the ability to work with very large data sets, large complex data sets quickly in real time. And in the demo, what we will see, what I'll try and show is how the workspace that we provide in the cloud, as well as the Excel integration, help with kind of trying to speed up some of these processes. The second theme is around agility, and the number of things there. I think mainly that talks about responding quickly to changes, so being able to modify data, modify structures as needed as things change in the market, within the business, within the organization. And I think agility also means being able to create a model potentially for a new process or a new part of the business that hadn't been kind of planned for or managed before. And I will talk about how the solution catalog that we provide helps with that, and also I'll briefly show some of the capabilities that the solution provides for modifying and changing structures on the fly. And the last theme then is around foresight, and this is talking about how organizations can use existing data within their own systems. They can look for underlying patterns, trends, anomalies in the data, and then apply this to their plans, budgets, forecasts, and predictions going forward, as well as incorporating external data into models. And all of this data should really help them kind of plan and predict the future better. Yeah, so speed, agility, and foresight are the kind of the key themes. So as we move into the demonstration, we will see, one of the key components of the solution is the workspace, which is available in the cloud. And this really addresses the theme of speed. And we'll see this as we go through the demo. You'll see how this is the launching pad really for everything that I need to do in terms of my planning and analysis. And then, still on the theme of speed, when we talk about model design, and this slide talks about business-led design. And I think broadly speaking, there are 2 approaches to model design. So the traditional approach is, more centrally developed models developed by professionals, finance professionals, usually people that you would regard as super users. They're typically sort of centrally managed and deployed to all of the cost centers and all of the departments as part of the planning process. So the solution supports this really well. A lot of our customers are using this approach. But what we're seeing kind of emerge more recently is what we call the business user-led approach. And that tends to be much more distributed across the organization. typically wherever there's a need, not just in a finance team, but, it would typically be another functional team. So, you might have the marketing department who has to do a promotions plan, and that gets linked into the kind of campaign planning, and an IT department would have a requirement to do sort of projects and initiatives, and that would be linked into their kind of staffing and resourcing model. So, in that scenario, the business user-led approach, the approach that's needed tends to be, a much easier approach that requires a lot less support from the super users. And, the IBM Planning Analytics solution provides capabilities for that as well, and it's all available through the cloud. And the other way that we help with the theme of speed is around the Excel, the integration with Microsoft Excel. And, clearly, certainly in my experience, Excel is the most popular planning tool, performance management tool out there, despite its limitations. And our offering allows you to embrace it rather than just kind of replace it completely. So as you'll see towards the end of the demo, the solution gives you full Excel functionality, formatting capabilities, along with kind of Excel graphs and functions. And the super users, finance professionals, can continue working in that interface where needed, but at the same time they get the benefits of the kind of a modern, scalable planning and analytics solution underneath. And you'll see how users can kind of explore and analyze data from lots of different sources using a familiar spreadsheet interface. And what that allows the organization to do is to give the analysis capabilities down to many more users in the organization. And on the theme of agility, you'll see how it's very easy for users to kind of create and customize their own views. They can create, a canvas type view with different visualizations of the data. But I think one of the key things which I'll try and demonstrate is that you have in addition to creating views of the data, you have read-write access. And what that means is you can do planning, you can do scenario modeling, you can test assumptions to see the impact of different drivers and different scenarios on the bottom line and other outcomes. And you'll see that the workspaces, they're kind of like dashboards. They can be shared across work groups, they can be shared across users. There's collaboration functionality built in, so people can kind of store their thoughts and their comments around a particular process or cycle without having to troll through, their emails or external files. And as you can see as well from the slide, that the access to the data is available from mobile and desktop devices. Now, underneath all of this is the powerful Cognos TM1 engine. You may have come across it before. It's an OLAP engine, scalable read-write capabilities that underpins a lot of what planning analytics does. So that allows, multi-dimensional analysis of very large data sets in real time, integrating data from multiple places to give you kind of comparative analysis from different versions, different departments, allowing you to do complex multi-dimensional calculations, analysis of key dimensions such as products, customer, sales, price, volume, mix, etc. And also in terms of agility, we have the Planning Analytics Solution Catalog. And what that does is it provides a number of out-of-the-box template models. And that allows companies to start planning more quickly. And you can see some examples of the range of models available. And this provides, the theme of agility. It provides a fast start to a planning cycle and a faster time to value. And then the last theme was on Foresight. One of the capabilities within Planning Analytics is, gives you access to IBM Watson Analytics. And that allows you to uncover predictive insights directly from your underlying data. And then you can take those insights and apply them to your planning and analysis. It's got capabilities such as natural language queries. It's got guided discovery. It lets users really quickly, really easily create analysis and visualizations based on their standard business terms. You have lots of visualizations that show you what's important, lots of kind of visualizations, infographics to help you support your decisions and help you share that information with others. And it's got capabilities around data preparation, refinement, management, and analysis. They're all available out of the box. So it's really easy for users to work with the data, and users can trust the data that they're looking at. So I guess in summary, before we dive into the demo, IBM Planning Analytics helps to improve planning, performance management, analysis by providing capabilities and solutions to provide speed, agility, and foresight. So we'll just pause for a moment before we do the demo. We did want to just check if there was any questions at this time.
And other than any questions, I think we're good to go.
Great, thank you, John.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm going to start the demonstration. I'm going to log on to IBM Planning Analytics Workspace. So I'm accessing the workspace in the cloud. I've got my data in the cloud here. And this workspace here allows me to do a number of things. As I said in the slide, this is kind of my launch point for all of my planning and analysis. So it allows me to work with existing views of data that somebody else might have authored, but I can also create and customize my own views. And we will see some of the self-service capabilities as we go through. So in this demo, I'm assuming the role of the Chief Financial Officer, and so I will start with a high-level overview of the company's performance. So as I mentioned, the solution provides lots of ways of visualizing data, one of which could be looking at maps, one of which could be looking at line charts showing me trends and performance over time. So we can see here, for example, this is an organization which trades in Ireland, and we can see the performance by individual county in this stage. It's an interactive view, so if I wanted to look at a different version or a different account or something else, I can just change the filters and see the performance of these individual counties, kind of how they're doing. And if I wanted to change the view of the products we're looking at over here, it's very easy for me to do as an end user. Okay. Now, in the role of the Chief Financial Officer, I would be interested in lots of different things. I might want to see how we're doing in relation to our overall strategy, and also the key metrics that define our overall strategy. So looking at this, things are looking good generally. Most of my kind of key objectives are in green, but some of them are in red. So I can see that our profitability objective is not doing as well as we would like, and the two metrics that kind of define that, net profit after allocations, are not performing as well as we'd like. And I can see that that's being impacted on by our objective to grow revenue, which is supported by our revenue and our revenue per FTE metrics. And the reason I point this out is, this capability to capture and display metrics and key performance indicators, this is a key integrated part of the solution. This is a core part of planning analytics. Okay, so at a high level, I can see we've got some problems, and I'd like to do a couple of things. I'd like to understand a bit more behind the issue, and maybe look at doing something to try and fix the issue. So, I want to get a better understanding of the issue around sales. Now, there's a number of ways I could do this. I could create a view of the data to answer this question. So, maybe I could bring in an existing view that somebody else has written. But in this case, I don't have the view. I've deliberately got this area blank. So what I'm going to do is use some of the natural language capabilities that you get with planning analytics. So I'm interested in the actual revenue by product. Okay, so hopefully you can see that on screen at the top there. I literally type in those terms. I then hit enter, and the solution goes off and it looks at my data for things that match my question. Yeah, and it finds a number of views, and it sorts them by relevance. And I could look at, let's say, this one is showing me the breakdown of actual, how we get to the revenue number. This one gives me a more summarized view. So my actual revenue by product, which is the question I typed in, is 73.5 million. Okay, so that looks quite good. That's quite a good starting point for my analysis. So I'm going to use this. So I'm going to start working with this particular view of the data. So having got my starting point, I now want to customize it so that I can get exactly what I want to see. Now, it's important for me to point out at this stage that I'm doing this as an end user. Yeah, I don't need to be an administrator of the system to create and customize this view. So if I want to see how this view is made up by products, I could simply take the product dimension, drag that into the column headings, and then I can see there's a hierarchy of products. The little plus tells me I can expand and see the further levels beneath that, because we've got a hierarchy of products made up of phones, PCs, etc. So that's quite good. I can drill up and drill down on the hierarchies. But there's other ways that this data is made up. It only showed me what I asked for in terms of the query, but behind the scenes, this data is made up by organization, channel, period, etc. So I'm going to bring those into the view. Okay. Now I'd like to see this information by month. Yeah. So the month dimension up here, I'm just going to drag that into the rows view. Yeah. And then it drops in the time hierarchy that I've defined of months rolling up into quarters, etc. But actually, I'm just interested in looking at the individual months. Yeah. So again, as a user, I can change that on the fly and change my view really quickly. And because I've got monthly data in here, it might be useful to look at this data differently. So up here on the kind of this little toolbar here, there's a number of options available to me, but I'm just going to choose the option to change the visualization. And I'm going to look at the line chart. Okay, so I can see the breakdown of the products over time, as it were, and I might just want to focus in on Dublin. Yeah, and it updates the graph for me. Okay, so I can see our phones aren't doing, they're kind of the lowest contributor, but I'd like a bit more detail on that. So having selected phones, I can drill down. What's it showing me here? Well, my 3G smartphones they're tailing off, I guess, as people move to kind of more modern technology. But it doesn't seem to be kind of made up for in my 4G phones. That isn't rising the way that I would hope it to do. Yeah, and this is something that I'm going to bear in mind when I come to doing my planning in a moment. Okay. Now, so I want to look at some of the planning capabilities now and just jump into that. And again, if I go to my targets area, again, I've got a blank screen, but I'd like to see what my targets are. Now, if I know that there's a view already created called targets, I can type in view targets, and it goes away and finds the view for me. So again, really easy to assemble views of the data as an end user. Now, at the moment, my target figures are the same for my actuals, but clearly for next year, we'd want to look at some growth. Yeah. So for the targets, the overall company, I'd like that to be 100 million euro. So I'm very bad at remembering how many zeros I would need to type in. So I type in 100M. It recognizes that that's 100 million, and then it kind of cascades that back pro rata over all of my individual counties and regions. So that's now given me a target for Dublin of 11.44 million euro. Okay. But the key point here is, as you can see, my workspace is allowing me to do read-write activities, as well as, using things like shortcut commands across potentially large data sets and kind of breaking my figures back across these data sets. Okay. As well as assembling the view on the fly. Now, so having set some high-level targets, let's have a quick look at, how our managers in the business might try to meet or exceed our targets. And again, all within the workspace. I haven't left the workspace yet. I can see the current workflow status of our current budget process. And, when our customers implement planning analytics, they're looking to, improve a number of things in their organization. Two of those are what we would call high-frequency planning and high-participation planning, doing it more often and involving more people in the process. And this solution really helps with high participation, high frequency planning in a number of ways. And one of them is the workflow, just having this visibility into where people are in the process. Seeing that Dublin has started, Wicklow hasn't, we can take action against the people who are holding up the process. And that alone can really kind of cut down planning cycle times. But what I'll do is I'm just going to jump in and open up the submission for Dublin so that I can see the current details of this budget submission. Now, I've got a couple of useful summaries which will help me, and what I'll do actually, I'll just enlarge this a little bit so you can see it more clearly on your screens. I can see that my budget submission is falling short on the sales target, which we just set, so we can see this real-time data within the system. We're not running any processes to move this data around. I could navigate to a bit more detail and look at the profit and loss information and see the detail line by line of how it's stacking up. Okay. But what do I want to do here? I want to look at how I can budget to meet my targets, and I can do that in a number of ways. I could look at my existing products that I'm selling. What have I got at the moment? I've got a couple of 4G phones and I've got one 3G model. Yeah, so I could change the volumes of the existing ones, but actually what I want to do is I want to look at the impact of launching a new product that doesn't currently exist in this data structure. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. But before I do that, I might want to see the impact of different scenarios around things like sales volumes and selling prices. So I'm going to create a new personal scenario, or a sandbox as we call it in the technology. Now, what I mean by a personal scenario is that the data is only visible to me. Yeah, at the moment, while I'm testing it, no one's looking over my shoulder. So what I'm going to do is, to begin with, create this new scenario. I'm going to call it new 4G model. And I'm going to call it the Wes H in honor of Wes Houlihan's fantastic goal yesterday. And I think that to begin with, we can probably sell 3,000 units, but we probably wouldn't expect that to launch until maybe midway through the year. And then I hit on add, and you see it's rolling up into the 4G smartphone. So that's telling it where in the hierarchy that it's going to go. Okay. So having done that, I've got my new product adding in, and I've got that rolling up into my hierarchy, and I can see the impact in blue. So obviously the new product impacts the parent, impacts the overall product total, and that will have an impact on my profit and loss. So that would get me well above my sales target, and I can see obviously there's an impact on cost of sales. Okay. Now, what I did might not seem all that kind of special, but it was fairly substantial if you think about it. I didn't just add some numbers, I made a structural change to the model, and that kind of replicated throughout the whole system. I didn't have to get the IT department to update an ERP system or a GL and kind of synchronize with that. I was able to do it at the point of decision making and planning. And it means, I was able to do it without having to shut the system down for other users. And, it's just more quicker, agile, and streamlined. Okay. Now, if I like this, I think that's going to be a good plan. I can commit this. And now the personal scenario becomes the one that gets rolled up and seen by other users. Okay. I can also submit the plan, which would lock it from any further changes unless and until an authorized user came back and rejected it. So I can now see the Dublin plan has been locked. Okay. And the other thing to point out quickly, if I were to come back to my work area, an area where I was looking at actual versus, looking at my actual breakdown for Dublin of the different product categories. If I change this view to look at my budget, for example, and again, as a user, I can add that into the view really quickly. And then if I went to my 4G smartphones, you'll see that's added that model in, it's added the data in for that new model that I just added on the fly. So all of my data is in sync. I don't need to do anything. It's a real-time system working with large data sets, updating everything in real time. Okay. And I guess the other key thing to point out is, up until now, I haven't left the workspace. I've done everything from within the workspace. I've done analysis, I've looked at metrics, I've created my own views, I've set some targets, I've done some planning, all within the workspace. But we understand that we recognize, and I mentioned that a lot of users would be more comfortable working in an Excel environment. So very quickly, just to round off, for people that are more comfortable working in this environment, the Excel interface gives you a very good way of creating ad hoc analysis or highly formatted reports using a familiar tool. It's the other thing to point out, it's optimized for performance on the cloud or across a wide area network. So users can enjoy fast response even when they're working with large data sets. And again, when I try and access data, I need to put in the same credentials that I would have used when I was logging on via the workspace. I'm going to just quickly look at the revenue data. And the quickest way to create a view in here, I'm going to create a new crosstab, which is blank. Now I could drag and drop my dimensions into here, but I've got some existing views already in the system. So the views, some of the views I've already been working with, I'm just going to replace the crosstab with that. Okay, so immediately I can see the volumes for Dublin broken down by channel, by month, but actually I want to see that broken down by product. I can drag and drop that across in here, and I can see the volumes for all of my products, including the one that I just added. I might want something which is more like a kind of a profit and loss type view. Maybe I'll drag in these measures into the rows, and maybe I want to see an actual versus budget variance type report. So very easy, very quick, speed, agility, both within my workspace, within Excel. And now that I'm in Excel, I can use all of the formatting, all of the additional calculation capabilities that Excel provides to me. So that really concludes what I wanted to show you in terms of the presentation. So hopefully what you've seen in a very kind of short space of time is how the solution provides those capabilities of speed, agility, and foresight using the workspace, using the ability to self-service analysis, create and modify views on the fly, the read-write capabilities of updating planning data, targets data, creating new scenarios, updating structures on the fly, and seeing the results in those in my visualizations instantly, and seeing the results of that in my Excel environment instantly. So I think we've got a few minutes left for questions. So I'm going to stop here and let you ask some questions. But thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you very much, Colin. Guys, if you have any questions, if you just want to put them into the question box up in the top right-hand corner, and we can answer any questions that you might have at this point. No, there doesn't seem to be any questions, Colin.
Okay, well, I hope it was sufficiently comprehensive that it answered any questions anybody might have had. It looks like we're pretty much on time anyway. It was quite a short, quite a focused session, but hopefully, it certainly got across all the points that I wanted to get across. And obviously, if there's further interest, the organisers can follow up with the delegates afterwards. But again, just thank you for your time this morning for watching and listening.
That's great, Colin. Listen, thank you very much for your time, and thank you everybody for coming. We're going to finish the webinar there. Thank you very much. Goodbye.